Good evening, I'm Rick Harp. We begin tonight in British Columbia, where former First Nations Summit leader Edie John now faces 4 counts of sexual assault in allegations dating back to 1974. This according to the BC Prosecution Service, which says the alleged charges involve one person and took place in and around Prince George, BC. A hereditary chief of the Unist'ot'en Nation, John holds a law degree from the University of Northern British Columbia and once sat as a provincial cabinet minister. John's first court appearance is set for December 10th. He could not be reached for comment by airtime. Still in British Columbia, but in the north part of the province, where the arrest of a 29-year-old pipeline opponent at the village of Unist'ot'en has residents upset. They say the arrest violates an agreement in place between the Unist'ot'en and the Coastal GasLink Company. APTN's Lee Wilson has more.
However, you are aware that this is a violation of the injunction, right?
RCMP say this Unist'ot'en village arrest was enforcement of a BC Supreme Court injunction allowing Coastal GasLink workers access to a liquefied natural gas pipeline in construction. Spanning 670 kilometers from Dawson Creek to a terminal in Kitimat, Wet'suwet'en hereditary chiefs have long held strong opposition to the project. The Unist'ot'en village is a reoccupation of their traditional territories. Spokesperson Freddie Houston has lived there for 10 years.
We have a protocol agreement between our chiefs and the Unist'ot'en chiefs and the CGL. After the interim injunction was granted, they struck up a protocol agreement with us for the safety of our healing center.
This June, Coastal GasLink, CGL for short, signed a protocol agreement with the Wet'suwet'en hereditary chiefs, giving 24 hours notice which contractors will be entering the village. Located 66 kilometers from Houston down Moores River Forest Service Road. A commercial vehicle was not on the list and therefore denied access. The RCMP arrived. An arrest was made on November 6. No charges were laid. The Unist'ot'en guest was released the same day. The RCMP say they are an impartial party in the pipeline dispute and issued a statement on November 7th. CGL were in contact with the RCMP. After reviewing the incident, they advised they had inadvertently not followed an agreement that they had made with the protester regarding access. Given this information, the RCMP exercised discretion and released the protester immediately, with an understanding that the matter would be resolved between the parties.
People are too afraid to have to deal with police. Police have always been violent towards our people and unjust towards our people, and when people are healing and had bad interactions with police, they're not going to feel safe to come out here to heal if they're going to constantly be harassed by police.
Coastal GasLink issued a statement and email to APTN National News. The protocol has worked well since it was signed in the spring, and we look forward to continuing to engage with Dark House on access and our mutual interest on safety. The incident is regrettable. There remains in place a legal injunction, which is enforceable by the RCMP, whose actions Coastal GasLink does not direct. Houston says the agreement has worked in part, but worries about the safety of guests with high traffic in the territory. Their plans for programs at the Healing Village are delayed, with limited access to land and RCMP presence.
For our village, we wanted to continue to have unfettered access to our territory, and right now we don't have that because industry is all over in the areas that we normally harvest our medicines and where we pick our berries, and we couldn't even hunt this year.
Lee Wilson, APTN National News, Unist'ot'en Village, BC.
To Thunder Bay, Ontario now, where a gathering of regional chiefs has just heard an update from the province's chief coroner. The update was a key moment at the Anishinaabe Nation's Fall Assembly. APTN's Willow Fiddler has the details.
Dirk Heyer updated leaders from Anishinaabe Nation on 2 important issues. The coroner told chiefs in assembly they are in the beginning stages of reinvestigating 9 deaths of First Nations people in Thunder Bay.
We want the communities, the families, and those in Thunder Bay, as well as more broadly, to have a greater confidence in the outcome, great confidence in the outcome and the results of these, which we're hoping will then translate to help to contribute to restoring the confidence of the public
The reinvestigations come from a recommendation from the Office of the Independent Police Review Director last year. The 9 cases include 4 First Nations youth whose deaths were examined in the 7-student inquest in 2015. The investigations are being led by retired Provincial Police Deputy Superintendent Ken Leppard.
So he is leading a team that is composed of Thunder Bay Police Service detectives as well as Anishinaabe Police Service members, and they're going to work together as the team to start these cases fresh. The Thunder Bay Police Service members were not previously investigating these 9 deaths.
Chief Leo Meditawaban from Fort Albany says there are similar issues in Timmins, Ontario, where 2 community members died under questionable circumstances.
Because we do need to address our concerns as well that happened in the city of Timmins, and something that we're not satisfied with, and something that needs closure. So there's some questions and the way it was handled.
Hire says their work could lead to changes in how death investigations are conducted. Hire is also part of a team reviewing 29 house fires in First Nations over a 10-year period. 56 people died in those fires between 2008 and 2017.
That there is a clear disproportionate number of fire deaths in First Nations compared to otherwise in Ontario.
In 2016, a family of 9 died in a house fire in Pekanjikam. Nan Grand Chief Alvin Fiddler says many communities lack the infrastructure and resources to protect themselves.
So, for example, to have a fire truck in the community, to have proper storage, a heated garage, to have a trained group of volunteers that can respond to those fires, for them to have a communication system where they can communicate with each other in the event of an emergency.
The Nan Chiefs will meet again sometime in the new year for their winter assembly. Willow Fiddler, APTN National News, Thunder Bay.
To politics now. Justin Trudeau, the man hoping to make a minority parliament work, continued his one-on-one meetings with other party leaders today. Up this time around, NDP leader Jagmeet Singh. The NDP leader said he reiterated his objections to the Trans Mountain Pipeline. Singh also said there were some key issues his party would want highlighted in Trudeau's upcoming throne speech if they were to support the Liberals. Among them, universal pharmacare and dental care, as well as the Trudeau government's push to quash compensation for First Nations children as ordered by a federal human rights tribunal. According to Singh, Trudeau seemed open to a discussion on the matter.
I've made it clear that what I'm asking for is a dropping of the appeal, that Indigenous kids should not be taken to court. He did not make a commitment at this point to drop the appeal. It's something that I would like to see happen. He hasn't closed the door on that, and so I'm going to continue to put pressure to say it really makes sense in this case to drop the appeal. We've got Indigenous kids who have received less funding. There's been deaths as a result. It just makes sense to drop the appeal.
Speaking of all things political, we have Nation to Nation on deck, set to air right after tonight's newscast. Here with a sneak peek at what's in store, APTN's Todd Lamrat.
Hello, I'm Todd Lamrat, and here's what we have for you on Nation to Nation. Senator Kim Pate drops by to share her thoughts on the case of Marlene Carter, a Cree woman who has spent a decade in jail or a psychiatric hospital, despite Pate's best efforts to return Carter to her community. As well, columnist Doug Cuthand gives his thoughts on Wexit, the so-called Western Canada separatist movement. Cuthand says First Nations certainly don't take it seriously, and even compares the Alberta and Saskatchewan premiers to cartoon characters. That's coming up immediately after the national news.
We begin, as always, out east. Charlottetown, 10, a little drizzle. Fredericton, 5, and snow. Kuujjuaq, a snowy -6. Nain, mix of sun and cloud, -4. Sept-Îles, snow, +1. Chibougamau, -11, and snow. North Bay, a snowy -7. Windsor, mix of sun and cloud, +2. Sioux Lookout, mostly sunny, -10. Thunder Bay, mostly sunny, -6. Puckatawagan, -11. Snowy, The Paw, mostly cloudy, -6. Gimli, mix of sun and cloud, -5. The same in Winnipeg.
Welcome back to APTN National News. We begin this part of the program in Quebec's biggest city, where a new space for homeless people officially opened today. Known as the Resilience Montreal Day Centre, the opening has some hopeful that the safety of those living on the street can be better protected. But as Lindsay Richardson explains, that hope could be short-lived.
It was an exciting and emotional day for Patulik Kumak. Alongside the mayor of Montreal, he cut the ribbon of a new place for the urban Inuit to call home.
Opening ceremony today, that overwhelmed me, but I'm very grateful that I was chosen and recognized. That's why I sleep all the time, every night.
Homeless for 20 years, Kumak squatted around the city while some of his friends held vigil to protest excess ticketing of the homeless and Indigenous on this downtown street corner near Cabot Square. But now they have a space all their own on the very same corner.
Isn't it interesting that it's the community that they were calling the police on that is now using the space?
Volunteers toiled for 2 weeks laying the groundwork to transform an old restaurant into Resilience Montreal, a culturally safe day center meant for the city's homeless. Few people understand the compounded issues around Cabot Square, like David Chapman, former acting director of the Open Door, a shelter forced to move across town last December when a developer purchased the church where it operated. The 11 months since were marked by increased police harassment, mounting medical needs, and a total of 14 casualties among the city's most vulnerable.
It's because of that suffering that Resilience Montreal is starting up now, and there's real momentum behind it.
It's huge, and when we talk about reconciliation, this is what it is.
The shelter was born of a collaboration between a number of community organizations, including the Native Women's Shelter of Montreal.
You know, this summer I had a dream, and I think it was a dream that many of us had, and we are literally standing in it.
With winter fast approaching, Resilience opened its doors to the public officially, despite being unfinished. Showers, for example, don't work yet, and a third of the staff, security included, have yet to be hired. But the need for a functioning wet shelter, one that accepts clients in any state, was immediate. Serving 3 meals a day in a common space, Resilience will also offer counseling, physiotherapy, and other resources addressing needs specific to the clientele.
A safe space. I would call it like that. I feel like this is what we are creating today.
Despite the mayor's wishes for longevity, once the logistical work is done, more complex work still lies ahead.
As soon as we move in, we're already looking for another space.
The shelter, he says, may eventually be demolished to make room for the luxury condos, slowly taking over the area. In the long term, Resilience hopes to offer a detox program and hospice care. But for the next year at least, Resilience will offer respite and comfort for Kumak and another company. Lindsay Richardson, APTN National News, Montreal.
To Vancouver now, where opposing visions of what is and isn't appropriate development has put Indigenous and non-Indigenous residents at odds. But if you think you know which side is which, think again. APTN's Tina House fills us in.
The Squamish Nation in BC has unveiled what it plans to build here on this empty lot, located at the south end of Vancouver's Burrard Street Bridge. The project proposal has doubled in size from what they announced last April in these artist renderings.
We're talking about building 6,000 units in 11 towers, primarily rental, for the city of Vancouver.
The land represents a dark chapter in local history. This is what Kitsilano Beach looks like today, and this is what the Squamish Nation village of Sanok looked like in 1913. 60 Squamish Nation men, women, and children who lived here were given 2 days to evacuate the area to make way for development. They were put onto this barge and towed to North Vancouver. Their houses were burnt, and each person was paid $11,250 for their land. An inquiry later on concluded that the government's tactics amounted to coercion and was illegal. These 11.7 acres were returned to the Squamish Nation, along with $92.5 million in 2003 after a lengthy court battle. And now they want to develop here, a prime location with views of the ocean.
It's about 11 acres, currently vacant. In the last few years, we really eyed it because of its proximity to downtown. You know, the rest of the city has built all these massive towers on our land, and we haven't seen much benefit from it. And so I think it's a reasonable expectation that they have that they want to also get involved in that type of development.
Mayor of Vancouver, Kennedy Stewart, says the Squamish do not need approval from anyone.
This is on reserve land, which is a bit of an anomaly in cities, but it does exist. Also Musqueam Reserve, for example. So city bylaws, the planning process does not apply.
Some local residents, like Milt Sorokin, are upset that the nation doesn't have to consult with them or the city.
Not taking any, taking into account anything related to reconciliation. I think we have to leave that separate from looking at the development holistically and how it affects everybody.
Ginger Gosnell Myers used to work with the city planning department. She says with a 0.5% vacancy rate in Vancouver, this proposal would be a huge benefit.
It's an area that a lot of people can and should move into, and there's a lot of growth opportunity for the surrounding neighborhoods because of the influx of thousands of new residents.
The project still needs to be voted on by Squamish Nation members. If approved, construction would begin in early 2021. Tina House, APTN National News, Vancouver.
Time for a quick break. When APTN News returns, a sneak preview of APTN Investigates and its look at the long, difficult relationship between Saskatoon police and Indigenous people. Please stay with us. And our second weather outlook begins in Peace River, Alberta, +2, a little bit of wet stuff. Grand Prairie, also wet, and 3. Edmonton, mix of sun and clouds, 6. Lethbridge, bit of snow, 12. Campbell River, we have some wet stuff in 11. Kamloops, 10. And some precipitation. Dees Lake, mix of sun and cloud, 2. Sandspit, wet, and 12. Old Crow, mostly sunny, -30. Whitehorse, mix of sun and cloud and 0. Norman Wells, snow, -20. Fort Laird, -17. Mix of sun and cloud. Inuvik, mostly cloudy, -22. Colville Lake, also -22 with some snow. Baker Lake, mostly cloudy, -21. Cambridge Bay, mostly sunny, -29. Arctic Bay, snowy, -17. Cape Dorset, a snowy, -6. Thanks for staying with us. A group of youth from the Montana First Nation have started down the path to a culinary career. It's all part of a 10-week course at Edmonton's Norquest College. Can you smell what the class is cooking? APTN's Chris Stewart did. He serves up this report.
Be ready, and then as soon as the tortellini is going to be ready, we'll just put that in and coat them up just like yesterday.
Some dried tomatoes.
Master Chef Sandra Lazarova is overseeing this group, putting together a meal of various pastas. For 10 weeks, these at-risk youth are learning the key aspects of fine cooking. Today, they're preparing sauces and cooking the pasta they made by hand.
So what is the plan? You tell me your plan for plating. What is your plan?
This opportunity was made possible by the Montana Nation's Agama Community Development Society, who teamed up with Alberta Community and Social Services and Edmonton's Norquest College. Chevy Rabbit is a program facilitator at the Agama Community Development Society. She says all of the students have job placements lined up when they finish by Christmas.
It was a lot of work going out to a region. Unfortunately, there's some people who close doors on us. But it's like fishing. I catch some businesses willing to work with us, and I go with it.
There you go. So it's easier if you actually grab it. Let me show you. There you go. So you grab it. Just literally try not to cut yourself, okay?
Master Chef Sandra Lazarova is teaching the course, which was developed by famous chef Shane Chartrand of Enoch Cree Nation. There will be a week of learning how to prepare Indigenous cuisine.
They're absolutely amazing group of students. I don't know how better students I could have asked for. They're absolutely amazing. I'm sure that after this course, they'll be ready for the workplace as well. And this is kind of where we're trying to get them.
Jace Rabbit says he learned how to make bannock and is hoping to make cooking a career.
I learned a lot in this culinary program today, like from using knife skills, cooking more bakery, and learning how to cook different kind of foods from different kind of countries. So everything's improving right now. So I love it.
Linnea standing on the road says she has learned quite a lot in a short time.
There's a lot of techniques like cutting, like different vegetables, like how to cut them, meat, and like how to tell how tender it is. Like I'm learning a lot about different steps on how to cook and workplaces, what they're looking for and like what they're not looking for.
She says that she has applied her knowledge at home.
I even wear my outfit at home because I'm the chef at home now.
I bet your mom's okay with that.
Oh yeah, she loves it. She's like, now you can cook at home now. I don't have to.
Sherry Rabbit says this was a one-time course. Upcoming training will include heavy-duty, Class 1 driving, and hospitality starting next year. Chris Stewart, APTN National News, Edmonton.
Troubled. It's one way to describe police-Indigenous relations in Saskatoon, a relationship with a lot of fraught history. APTN Investigates reporter John Murray has dug into that history. Here now, a preview of his forthcoming episode, Bad Guys.
Hurry up, jump, Barry. Ah! Jump! Jump, hurry up! Real high! Jump! Hurry up, jump real high! Go to the moon! Hurry up!
He found out he was going to be a daddy, and he was kind of worried to tell me because, what is my mom going to say, right?
What was that?
Finally says, yeah, we're going to have a baby, Mom. It's like, really? I'm like, woo,
He was so happy.
Like, huh?
We were happy.
Who's that up there? That's Daddy. That's your daddy? Yeah. And that's Connor. There's Hope now. And Daddy. And Daddy and Papa. Yeah. And the dog. I think.
Now, LaFond died of head trauma, but
crash happened in the early morning hours of October 23rd.
But an autopsy hasn't been able to determine whether that was from the truck crashing into the fence.
Police say they attempted to stop a stolen vehicle.
Or from police's use of force.
In the use of force and in the original report done by the officer, he clearly articulated that he did a knee strike to the individual while he was trying to arrest him. Because this may be part of some of the injuries we didn't know.
And that full episode of APTN Investigates will air tomorrow night, right after the news. And that's it for tonight's edition of APTN National News. And that's it for me. The regular hosts will be back in this chair tomorrow. Until then, be well. I'm Rick Harp. Have a great night.